Okay, here we are, another day. We have cleaned up one carb, disconnected the other one, and now we're going to see if we have continuity of fuel without leaking. All right, go ahead, JB. Let's see if we get any leaks.
It's on.
Okay.
It's running.
Okay, so far, I've got no water, I have no gas spewing anywhere yet. Oh, it just stopped.
That means they hit the carb.
Okay, I don't see any gas going anywhere.
No?
We might. Okay, we're clear. Let's see if something will happen. You want to prime it at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it started firing. Hey, it's going. It's going.
Big guy.
Yeah.
Big mechanic in the sky. Oh, it must be good.
I don't see any leaking anywhere. This is good. That's right. Right on. Comes to right.
Get oil pressure, get oil up into the top of the engine where it can lubricate because it's bone dry from sitting all these months.
Yeah.
We gotta let it.
Let it just idle.
All that oil's gotta make its way up through the galleys and up into the top of the engine and lubricate the valves and all of that.
Right.
Otherwise, we're gonna prematurely wear all that stuff.
Yeah, so the key word is be patient. Just let it idle.
Let it idle.
Let it warm up nice and gracefully.
Right. Now, we can still do some fine tuning on the carburetors, but it seems to run fine. And we're still going to have some residual old gas in there. That was the problem initially.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to take the other carburetor down and get it cleaned up because it's undoubtedly in the same condition as the first one was.
Right.
And then when we have both of them singing together,
Then we can still
then we can listen to the big orchestra, and all the musicians will be in place.
That's right. Very good.
Okay.
Okay, so what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a 1937 Buick Century with a very rare dual carb intake.
Yes.
And even though it's dusty, we will clean it up. Do not worry, we will clean it up and make it look great again. But just got it out, just got it started, and we're going to go from here. We're going to make sure the second carburetor gets cleaned up as well, and everything can sing well together. So JB, in case they didn't hear over the engine noise, repeat, if you don't mind, the whole idea of if you have two carburetors, what does that allow?
Well, firstly, if an engine is big enough to be able to use the extra fuel, then it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We got to remember that these cars were built when most people are only going 40, 50 miles an hour.
Right.
This car, to live in the modern world, would like to go 60 or 70 or 80 miles an hour. So
Sure.
it actually can use that fuel in order to accomplish that. But even more importantly, it gives you a duality to it. And when one carburetor, for instance, is not able to perform it, let's say you're out and about and you're away from a mechanic and you really don't have any help at hand. If you have a dual carburetor system, you can abandon one of the carburetors, use the one that is in fact functioning to get you home.
Right, and I'm going to cut away to the photo I took of the one being blocked off.
Okay. All right.
So we'll be able to show how, yeah,
Right.
kind of in a pinch. One carburetor's been modestly cleaned up and kind of made ready. And the other one is probably still junked up with old fuel.
Yeah, and we're gonna be taking it off and taking it down and make sure that it gets cleaned up.
All right, well, let's do that next, I think. Is that
Yes,
the next thing to do?
That's our next step.
All right, let's go. Yeah, so how do you check the radiator on this vehicle?
Just check it to make sure it's got water in it.
Okay, where do you check it? I guess I
It's on
should
the
have said.
other side.
Oh, on the other side.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to feel better about the coolant
Yep.
just before we forget and get carried
It's an
away.
important consideration. I mean, because you can take it out and you don't have any water in it, and it'll overheat.
Right.
These engines are very expensive to rebuild. So
Oh, yeah.
take really good care of them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Easy way to do that. Just make sure.
Ooh.
Oh my God! Look at that.
We
mess.
got some cleanup to do on that.
Yuck, poo poo. That's where the thing came apart.
Yeah,
So we're gonna need
the
a new
cap came
cap.
apart. I don't know if you
Ugh.
can see anything
Yuck.
down in there.
Well, hopefully not. We're gonna be real careful and take it out of there.
Okay.
But that's just the cap, the center.
It's the
radiator.
cap came apart.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then the bottom of it fell in the radiator. Fortunately, it doesn't go straight into the radiator because it's got a 90-degree bend right there, so we're able to.
Yeah, that's a blessing right there.
Yeah.
It's not going
Yeah,
straight
you
down.
can't imagine the number of engineering things that Buick was.
See, now it's like, just so imagine for a moment, 83 years ago,
Right.
there was an engineer
Yep.
kind of created this little elbow for us to
Yep.
save us today.
Exactly. When they thought about things like that, they were
83 years in the
people
future.
encouraged that at
Yeah.
management in those days because most of the Buicks, especially, were wound up in the hands of well-to-do people who didn't want to put up with nonsense.
Right.
They didn't want problems. They didn't want to be
Yeah.
left on the side of the road, and so
Help me out.
the engineers foresaw some of these things happening
Yeah.
and tried to engineer the cars such that they didn't have those problems. And there's probably hundreds of them that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Especially, and most cars are of that
I mean, the
description.
radiator
back in this
itself
period.
looks like it's in very good condition.
Yeah, it really is.
But that cap
The
died.
cap fell apart, and so
So
now.
we're getting a new cap.
Now remember, these are not pressurized radiators in this period, so
Okay.
we're not worried about the water boiling out of this thing because typically you only fill them to about this level, so you got this air
Okay,
space
so the
on
tank
top of
on
the
top
water.
is more of an expansion area.
Yeah, it's akin to what later becomes the expansion tank, which is
Okay.
a separate
Right.
item in a car, and that is unquestionably a better way to do it. But water expands.
Sure.
It expanded back then, and expands now.
Right.
It was always so,
Okay.
and so they had to leave provision for it.
All right. So we're going to get a new cap. That's
We're
on the
gonna get a new
list.
cap, and we're going to get the other carburetor.
Okay, let's go get the
done.
other carburetor off and get it cleaned up.
We pretty much know the starter's working. We got a fuel gauge
Oh, I hadn't noticed that.
to get an idea because we don't want to run too much fuel pressure. The downside of automatic, excuse me, electric fuel pumps is that they create too much pressure.
Too much, right.
in
And the
order
system's
for-
not designed for
No,
that
it
much.
will not handle that. The carburetor floats and that sort of thing. If you put too
Right.
much pressure on, they'll actually leak.
This is why we have the hood up.
So we have a pressure regulator to keep that pump from creating more than a few pounds of pressure.
I see. And I see the dipstick for the automatic transmission.
Exactly. And of course, this has an automatic, which is not the original automatic, because remember, there was an automatic offered by Buick in 1937, but this is a modern.
Right. But I see
version.
the.
And we just made a transition between the back of the engine and the front of a.
Okay, so it's like an
turbo
adapter
feed.
plate, I guess?
Exactly. Yeah, and there's a number of companies make them.
Yeah.
An engine's an engine.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that when you're talking about converting from a modern engine to a modern engine,
Yeah.
you're really spending an enormous amount of time and no small amount of money
Mm-hmm.
to do something that was already there.
Right. Right.
I mean, these engines are beautifully made.
Mm-hmm.
They'll make horsepower if you just give them a little bit of help and give
Yeah.
them some more fuel and build them properly. I can't imagine a situation where you're saving money to completely rip this engine out and then redesign everything to put a modern engine back in.
Yeah.
And then what do you have? You've got a mongrel. So.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. We'll get to work here.
Okay. Dope.
Okay. So JB, wait. Come back here.
Yes.
What is this? This is obviously a custom plate, but I have no idea what it means.
No, it's not a custom plate. That's the irony.
Okay. Wait a minute. So tell me, what does this plate signify?
This plate is a correct original Arizona 1937 plate.
Okay.
There were about 6 people in Arizona at that time. So,
right.
The irony here is that when I saw this plate, I couldn't believe my eyes, because if the model number from Buick that's on the tag, identifies it as a 66C.
Wow.
What are the odds?
Wow.
That tells you last year it was on the road, which would be
2016,
which is
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. Air does a better job than water.
Yeah.
Nope. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We didn't pay that guy to come by.
No.
Let's get it in and out. You know, even water. So this is a good way to start. Remember, we did that. There's 2 acres of Arizona dirt on this, by the way. If you were,
2
for those of
acres.
you who are- A smart person would have shut the window. You want to open the door over there?
Okay. Okay. Don't worry, we will give it a wipe down and wash later, but start with this, right?
Yeah. You know, out of the little areas you can't get to, you can't use water in the inside.
Right.
Good way to start.
Yep.
Quick work of it.
It speeds it right along.
Dust on the car when we're working on it, because it'll scratch the paint.
Right.
This car's got, you know, a very expensive paint job on it. You don't need to be scratching it.
What do you got there?
Well, Harry, if this was a Chevrolet, we just go get a hose, right?
Right.
If it was a Ford, we'd probably, you know, use a beer can. But since this is a Buick, we have to have the correct tool for the correct job.
tool. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, let's make sure we
Carefully now, don't overfill him.
let's make sure nothing comes out the bottom.
Right, we're looking for water coming. Well, it turns out that this has the perfect shape to accomplish the mission. And we're going to look for a leakage. Having seen none, we will assume that and the water now is up.
Is it just
the
touching the
appropriate
bottom level?
Yes, it is right here. It's absolutely perfect.
That's perfect. Excellent. That's all you needed. You saying after sitting all these years it just evaporated a half gallon?
Remember that the radiator cap in these old cars doesn't do anything.
Okay.
Let me repeat that. All it does is keep the water from coming out under very high acceleration.
Okay.
One of the ways you can deal with an overheating problem is to take the radiator cap off.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Because when water is pressurized, it'll go to a higher temperature. If you let it vent its heat out the filler, it actually will cause it to run a little cooler.
Less pressure, less temperature.
Exactly. So if you're in that situation, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you're trying to get home, or you're trying to get the next 5 miles to get some help, you might want to consider that. Just take the radiator cap carefully now.
Right.
Always put a towel over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't hurt yourself.
Wait for the engine to cool down.
Yeah.
Crack the lid under the towel, not with your hand.
Right.
use your hand on top of the towel and let it
Right.
vent whatever heat's there, and then run it without the cap, or leave the cap on loose. It's the same difference.
There you go. A little tip of the day right there. Okay, did we get it running? Yeah, kind of. The engine's running smoothly enough. Now we've got to figure out some other issues. We've got a obviously radiator cap that's no good. I noticed, we didn't talk about it, I noticed that we have another fuel leak by the firewall. I don't know if you saw that in the video, but anyway, that's the problem. We need to solve that. So there's that, and just cleaning it up. And I don't know what else we're going to run into. This is an adventure. Thanks for coming along.